Contagion was a constant fear. The plague was endemic in the Ottoman Empire and in the principalities of North Africa, which represented important trading partners for European nations, including Venice. Constant surveillance was therefore required. A certain degree of collaboration was also needed. The Mediterranean port cities had to be willing to share information about the state of health and possible epidemic threats. Even in these, Venice was the leader. The Republic had its own dense information network, made up of ambassadors, consuls, merchants and spies, which allowed it to constantly collect data and decide to eventually suspend trade with cities or entire nations where contagious diseases were suspected. Venice printed and circulated all its health provisions. This decision to share health information with other states, however, had above all utilitarian purposes. It was a way of pushing others to pay due attention and avoid the spread of the infection. It was also a way to maintain a certain relevance in the international arena. The more Venice declined as a commercial power between the 17th and the 18th centuries, the more it became a center for the collection and dissemination of information, primarily about health matters. By the 18th century, Venice had acquired a consolidated reputation for the efficiency of its health magistrate. The city, in fact, had not been touched by the plague since the famous epidemic of 1630, which had affected instead Milan with devastating effects, as described in the pages of the renowned 19th century novel De Promessi Sposi by Alessandro Manzoni. Thus, requests came from all over the Mediterranean and from all over Europe to learn about the health protocols of the Serenissima. In 1721, for example, the Dutch consul asked for detailed information on Venetian health management. The Netherlands, a true commercial superpower of the time, looked still to declining Venice to find out how to manage lazarets, licenses and quarantines. It is no coincidence that this request came precisely in 1721. A year earlier, a violent epidemic of plague had broken out in Marseille, and from there it had spread throughout Provence, causing great concern in Europe. The plague in Marseille allowed us to tackle another side of health information, that of false news. In fact, there was a certain degree of collaboration in the circulation of health news, but there was also a great deal of competition. Having the control of the narrative, especially when an epidemic was underway, could lead to great commercial benefits. Thus, Genoa, at the outbreak of the infection, began to circulate a series of rumors, according to which the blame for the onset of the epidemic was not to be assigned to Marseille, but to Livorno, a city that was touched by the infected ship and which, according to the Genoese, had not made the necessary checks nor informed the nearby ports of any suspicions. With Marseille out of the game, Genoa had every interest in damaging the other great port of the western Mediterranean to remain unrivaled. Marseille itself, as soon as it began to recover, rekindled the accusations against Livorno, thus hoping to recover the image of a safe port. In such an intricate situation on the other side of the Mediterranean, Venice remained in prudent observation, collecting data. Venice itself, however, did not refrain from spreading rumors that could damage the health reputation and therefore the trade of nearby Trieste, which, declared a free port by Emperor Charles VI in 1719, was becoming a formidable competitor. Trieste, according to a report compiled in Venice in 1749, formerly an asylum for the smuggling of olive oil, raisins and salted fish and a few other kinds from the Levant, was becoming an emporium of goods from and to all the Austrian states and Hungary, collaborating with Tuscany and the port of Livorno.